Shalom everyone, and welcome to another Pod for Israel, and this is another one of the short war updates. I'm Dr. Erez Soref, and I have with me our very own Dr. Seth Postell. Hi Seth.
Hi Erez.
So it's been a very, very difficult week.
Yeah.
I want you to share with our listeners a little bit of what's been going through here for all of us in Israel, but I think particularly for us as believers.
So this situation touches all of us in a very personal way. I think every single one of us knows somebody that's been directly impacted by death and loss and casualties and injuries. And
so I watched an interview yesterday. Actually, I'm not sure when exactly was the interview given. It was with, I think, an large American network, and it was the Hamas spokesperson. And he clearly stated in this interview, he said, Hamas did not kill a single civilian. He actually said that. And so are we all making this up? Is Israel making all this up? It never happened. We're just, like the Holocaust never happened. So tell us a bit of a personal perspective on that.
Yeah, sure. First, I would say that it's quite odd that in one sense they're the ones that have spread these videos to prove their conquests, and now they're denying the reality of what they've actually did. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
So the initial videos they spread were in Arabic,
yes,
and his denial was in English.
Yeah.
So that's the different crowds he's talking to.
Of course. So I just spoke to my cousin today, and I'm glad that I actually can speak to my cousin.
He's one of the survivors.
He's one of the survivors. Yeah, he 6:30 in the morning on Saturday morning, he heard the alarms. That they were the rockets and the mortars. They get shelled by mortars, and so he ran to the safe room, the bomb shelters, with his family. And then he heard, he came out. I think he was getting reports that they were hearing shots outside the kibbutz. And so he got outside, grabbed his weapons. He's part of the tactical response team, the quick response team. He grabbed his weapons and started heading out the door. As soon as he came out the door, he told me that he heard gunfire, but it wasn't gunfire coming from one place. He was in an elite unit in the IDF, and he recognized immediately that gunfire wasn't just coming from one place. It was coming from several places around the perimeter of the kibbutz, or not even, it was at that point in the kibbutz. He also recognized that the gunfire that he heard was not an M16. It was not an AK-47 or a Kalach.
It's a heavier weapon.
These were heavier weapons, and then he suddenly realized there was an infiltration. And so at this point, he recognized he needed to do something very quickly. He didn't know. He knew there were terrorists on his kibbutz. He knew there were multiple, and he just didn't know where they were coming from. And so what he had to do was he ran in and he told his wife and his children to get ready to run. They weren't going to stay in the bomb shelters. He checked around the house. He said, as soon as the coast is clear, he made them get in the car. He got in the car. She was driving. They started heading for the gate. He was going to get her out of the kibbutz and then run back to fight. Mm-hmm. And they got to the entrance of the kibbutz. They were close to the entrance to the kibbutz. They noticed that there were dead bodies. And at that point...
Dead bodies of their friends?
Yeah.
The kibbutz members? Wow.
Yeah, as far as I know, they saw dead bodies, yeah. And so they realized that, and they heard the gunfire, and so at that point he was wanting to run back and fight, but then he realized that then no one would be there to protect his wife and his 4 children. And so he decided to ride back with them to get them to a safe place and to try to head back. He was going to leave them again to go back and fight, but at that point there was nothing he could do. And so there, on their kibbutz, there are 6 that have been killed. There are several hostages, wounded. They torched the kibbutz. I've seen pictures of they just torched the houses of the kibbutz, and it's been a living nightmare for them. And so, this is touched in a very personal way. Again, just another story this morning. I went out and, you get to, in Israel, you have the dog walking community. Everybody that has a dog, you get to know each other in your community. And
It's a great evangelistic tool, actually.
so
Certain times.
I was walking with my dog this morning, and I saw a guy that I've seen many times with his dog, his Pitbull. And I kind of called out to him. He was probably about 20 feet from me, and I said, "How are you doing?" And he grabbed his heart, and he said, "I'm gutted." And I saw he was shaken. I said, "What's the matter?" He said, "We lost one of our boys in the party. We just found out he was murdered." I said, "Your son was killed?" He said, "Well, he wasn't my son, but my wife and I raised him. He was our child. We grew up with him. We raised him since he's a little boy, and we're very involved with him." And we discovered, his name is Daniel. And we found out that last night that he was among the dead. He had over 100 bullet wounds. And apparently Daniel gave his life. He, according to the testimony, saved over 100 young people. And then hid himself, and he was found, and he was riddled with bullets. And so to say that this didn't happen, to say that this is propaganda, I mean, it's the same satanic Holocaust denial, and it's crazy because it's right in front of our eyes, and it's so obvious that these are lies, but the world will believe it.
Yeah, and I think we're already seeing. So first of all, thank you so much for sharing that. I know it's a personal thing, and like you say, your family, and I think every family has been touched in a very personal way. Let's talk a little bit of how it all played out for us, or plays out for us, since this war began.
Yeah, so again, because we've got carry license, all over Israel, communities have been creating community watches at night, right? And so not only are we busy during the day, all hours of the day, but at night as well. Yeah. But because we have carry license, we've become valued members of our community to protect our communities. And so, I'm not used to being up in the middle of the night anymore. But this is something that you and I have experienced. Is that life for us is very different. We have day jobs, and now we have night jobs.
And that kind of reminds me, whenever I do that, I'm not getting up that happily, but I'm doing it knowing that it's important. And it reminds me the story of Nehemiah. In Nehemiah's day, when they were building the wall, and really our life mission is to build a spiritual wall around Israel, at one for Israel. But now we also have to watch at night, with others as well. So that's interesting.
But and I'm sure you agree with me. This whole sense of just feeling honored to be able to help our community sleep well at night.
Sure.
To do whatever we can for the sake of the country.
Amen. I think we're facing a season where, actually, after about a week of global sympathy, or almost global sympathy towards Israel, I think we're going to see a switch where it's changing very, very, very fast. Mm-hmm. And I think very fast Israel's going to turn to be the bigot in all this. And maybe we can say a word. We talked this morning about the Palestinian people. And I'm making a very big distinction between Hamas as a murderous organization and the Palestinian people. What would you say is the difference? Why is it so important for us to make that distinction?
Yeah, I think the assumption around the world is that Israel is fighting against the Palestinians. But Erez, I mean, you're born here. I've been here since 1993, and ever since I can remember, Israel's been trying to make peace with the Palestinians.
There we go. It almost became a religion at some point in Israel, making peace.
They want peace, and Israel right now is not at war with the Palestinians. And I don't know a single Israeli, personally among my circle of friends, believers and otherwise, that wouldn't long for peace, wouldn't long for Gaza to not have fences and security fences, that we actually were living side by side where Israelis could go and shop and do business there. And right, the war right now is against Hamas, and Hamas is basically, they have their whole point to exist is to eradicate Jews. Forget about Israelis.
Yeah.
They hate Jews. And a Jew for them, a Jew is a Jew. And so a baby, a young lady, children,
An elderly lady. Yeah.
Holocaust survivors, it does not matter to them. They do not distinguish between combatants and non-combatants. And so right now, Israel's not at war with the Palestinians. And in many sense, Israel's at war to rescue the Palestinians from an evil regime. I mean, you think about the fact that the people that we share the gospel with in Gaza, if when people find out, if they're ever caught, or it's ever heard of, that somebody in Gaza comes to faith in Jesus, Hamas comes in, tortures them, murders them.
Right away. And their families.
You think about the fact that the Palestinians are under this evil rule of people that are actually using them for human shields in order to protect themselves and in order to get the world to hate Israel more. And so, Israel's not at war with the Palestinians. Israel's at war with a group of people that have vowed and have committed every fiber of their being to destroy the state of Israel. And so, unfortunately, the world sees this as Israel in a war against the Palestinians, and it's a lie. It's just simply not true. I have never. You meet an occasional Israeli that doesn't want peace with the Palestinians, but
it's actually rare.
They're the exception and not the rule.
Yeah.
Israelis do long for peace, but you can't shake hands with a guy that wants to slit your throat. There's no way to do that.
So, as we wrap this up, what I want to say very, very clearly to those watching us and listening to us, that we at One for Israel and all the Israeli body of Messiah, Jewish and Arab, we are standing with those people that lost their lives, that their dear ones have been kidnapped to the Gaza Strip, all civilians, and we are standing and continue to stand with the people that are rebuilding their lives. Many of them literally have no home to go back to. I mean, it's torched, it's burned, it's just not there anymore. Everything they had, all their possession is gone. Thank all of you so much for praying for us, and for those that God is leading also to donate to our relief fund. We're helping this family and others like them to rebuild their lives after they've lost everything in the most cruel, inhumane way. And thank you so much for standing with us, for praying with us. It was important for us to get you the personal face of this. And those kind of stories are close to our hearts, as it happened to our own family members, friends, neighbors. So again, thank you, and may God bless you.